Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove. I'm joined by a man who is enjoying springtime in February. His name is Taylor Rockwell.
Hello, yeah. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. Having it
weird,
like 77 degrees in February.
It's not like I like it.
And also hello.
But it's not right. Hello to you too.
Yeah.
It wasn't just springtime today. It was also Champions League.
Yep.
There were two games today. Man Utd, Sevilla. Spoiler alert.
They were less sunny.
It was less sunny, right?
Yeah.
Well, it depends who you support. Excuse
suppose.
me, it was Sevilla, Manchester United, right? This was away in Sevilla, finished 0-0. We'll get into that. Paul Pogba made an unexpected return.
He did.
To the United team. And then, over in Ukraine, Shakhtar beat Roma 2-1. Again, that featured two good goals and one interesting goal.
Sure.
We'll talk about
Sure.
all three. Later in today's show, we've got some listener questions, including why is there no US men's national team B team? We'll be getting into that. Should we start in Sevilla?
Sure.
Yeah, with the 0-0 draw. Okay, so, full disclosure and all that. You're a Man United fan.
I am.
You were not thrilled with this game. I'm going to guess because it was a very Mourinho game. But I'm here to tell you that a 0-0 draw away to Sevilla in the round of 16, actually not that bad.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, that is the reality. Is a 0-0 draw, as Mourinho said, they'll go back to Old Trafford. It'll be a big game. But I think, first of all, given the way the other English clubs have performed so far...
Ned Stark takes note of that but, by the way.
What do you mean?
In that everything you say before it is not as worthwhile as what comes afterwards.
No, I mean it's a fine result.
Okay.
It's just the reality is it wasn't a very good game.
True,
I mean
true.
I mean things can be two things, as we often say, and that is the reality. Is that a 0-0 result is good if you get the second result.
True.
That's the big if there. It's better to get a win in the first game or to do something in the first game.
It did have a feeling of Manchester United doing nothing. We took a look at it in a more tactical kind of way, and it's essentially the old Mourinho go there and don't take too many chances. They played, I'm going to call it a 4-1-4-1.
Yep.
And the idea was just get numbers behind the ball. Matic with initially McTominay and Herrera ahead of him.
Yep.
Mata and Sanchez were essentially right mid, left mid. They were not right wing, left wing.
Nope.
And just play it into Lukaku, and we'll try and bounce it off of him and see what else we can do.
Or break through Sanchez. Those are pretty much the two options.
That's true. That's true. And it didn't create many chances.
No, I mean that's what happens in a 4-1-4-1. If you've got people sitting deep and you play the ball long, it's very much dependent upon the striker's ability to constantly hold the ball up.
Yeah.
And even if Lukaku does that half the time, you're then limiting your chances by half, and then you've got to play off of him. And I think it always is going to limit your ability to attack. I think it also really limits your ability to build any sort of sustained possession and really get any sort of really consistent chances. And that's why they were outshot considerably. I know Mourinho referred to them as like meaningless shots or statistical shots or whatever, but there were some pretty good shots for Sevilla in there.
Well, let's zero in to what I think is the best chance of the game, which is Muriel's header right at the end of the first half. It forced David De Gea into one of those very David De Gea saves where he dives up and palms it over the bar.
It was a very good save.
It was a very good save. It was a decent header, but it was the type of chance that I don't think Mourinho can call meaningless because it was real.
I mean, because he's Mourinho, explained it away as like, oh, you have one lapse, these things happen in soccer. Of course, that was his defense. The reality, though, is we watched it a bunch of times, and there are lots of different people at fault. David De Gea is not one of them, although he did maybe make a mistake in the lead up to that play where he called Lindelof off and then had to kick the ball.
He did. He kind of made Lindelof look bad, right? And the real culprit to me is Ashley Young, who completely miscontrols that ball. You can tell by the way Ashley Young's running, he's planning to bring that ball down and keep going with it. And then it rolls through,
But either way, Sevilla get the ball off the clearance, ends up with another chipped ball into the box, and Muriel is wide open. And it's a good header. It's not a bad header. It's not like he scuffs it and David De Gea is able to collect it. It's a good header. De Gea just reacts to it well, puts it over. But it comes about because Chris Smalling does Chris Smalling things.
So he's definitely marking Muriel in the build-up, but just before the cross comes in, he's trying to cheat out and I think close down another player, Vasquez, or he's going to try and cut out a low ball.
I think you're being very generous.
Do you think? I kind of look at him as trying to do two things at once because no one else was marking Vasquez.
I genuinely think he switched off. I genuinely think that he just...
I think he was too switched on. He was switched on to two things.
See, and maybe that's the case. I really do think, though, that that's giving him a lot of credit to be like, oh, he was aware of that, and he was trying to do three different things, and he just got caught. You can just see him. I just think he wants to be closer to the ball. I think he has this idea that I need to be in the middle of the 6-yard box, I need to be kind of close to it and goal side, and then I'm in the right position. And it felt just like almost like, I'm not saying this was it, but it felt like a little kid who's like, if I stand in the space where I'm supposed to stand, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
And you could see him. He kept trying to like cheat away from Murillo, and then he'd go back, and then he'd kind of step away, and then he'd go back, and he just really wanted to move away. Maybe Murillo smells bad. He's done the Meta World Peace, the Ron Artest approach of just not bathing before games.
Is that a thing?
He smells terrible. Yeah. But either way, Chris Smalling just drifts. And maybe it's to close down space. Maybe it's because he thinks somebody else is coming through.
I think he's scared about Vasquez.
But that's still... I thought you were saying Muriel and the Smelling. But it's still not his job. It's still easy enough for him to say, hey, Matic, mark that guy. McTominay, do something.
That's it. I forgot. When we rewatched this, the thing we decided on in the end is that partly Matic is at fault because he's just trying to block off the pass and not worried about number 22, Vasquez, who's coming in. What should have happened, what would happen if I was playing and this was a much lower level and I could handle it, is if I'm Chris Smalling, I'd say to Matic, hey, there's a guy behind you, mark him, right? Then you solve that problem instead of trying to be with Muriel and Vasquez at the same time.
Yeah.
There we go. We fixed it.
We did.
We should call Mourinho.
Totally. I think it's just the only reason why I'm like hesitant to accept that Smalling was trying to do other things is just because if people didn't see the game, I don't want it to come across as like, oh, Vasquez was wide open in the box and Smalling had to choose between two. Like there were lots of other people around. Yeah. It would have been a difficult pass to get it to Vasquez.
But all the other people
place.
Were not focused on marking. They did not really know Vasquez was there.
That's definitely true, but nor was Chris Smalling.
Which is part of the problem.
I mean, that's fine, but it's still... I think at the end of the day, if you're the veteran center back in that team, you've got to be, to your point, the one who takes charge, tells people, picks people up, has words. And Chris Smalling, after that chance happened, you could see him look around, and he ends up just kind of sheepishly smiling. But he was absolutely trying to find somebody to blame and realize, like, nope, that is on me. And when you see a player do that, and I feel like I could recognize it because I've done it myself at times, like, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's
a bit of misdirection.
Just desperately be like, this has to be someone else's fault.
So you know more about Manchester United than I do.
Yeah.
Can I assume that when Eric Bailly is fully healthy and back, that he will be replacing Chris Smalling in that lineup?
I would guess so. I'm assuming that's why you would go out and spend the money to get Bailly and Lindelof and put
because that's the long-term partnership, right? And Smalling and Phil Jones are kind of just left over from previous regimes.
Yes, and Lindelof struggled in the beginning of the season, and I think maybe that's why I'm a little bit inclined to give him the pass with the De Gea incident, because I was like, no, he doesn't need more reason for people to hate on him. But that has been the problem.
Isn't part of it that Lindelof is more likely to complete a pass and Eric Bailly is more likely to complete a pass?
That's a big part of it.
Smalling or Jones.
That is a big part of it. But it is worth saying again here that like this is one incident in a much larger game, but I think it's worth focusing on because number one, it was the most exciting part of the game, I would say, and number two, it just kind of speaks to it, to your point, kind of United still, with it being more than half the season gone, not quite being on the same page. That we watched McTominay in the lead up to that chance for Sevilla. He doesn't really mark anybody. He's ball watching most of the time. Matic drifts a little bit. Ashley Young drifts a little bit. It just felt like nobody was really locked in a game that is a knockout round of the Champions League. You would expect them to be locked in.
Can we talk Paul Pogba?
Sure.
So once again, not selected.
He was locked
to
into
start.
the bench. Yeah.
Not selected to start by Jose Mourinho.
I'm taking a breath, by the way, listeners.
I'm guessing McTominay selected ahead of him, which seems to be what Mourinho is doing. But Ander Herrera pulls his hamstring with, an over-enthusiastic back heel in about the 15th minute.
Having just returned from a hamstring injury.
Is that right? I did not know that.
Yeah.
So Pogba, I've got some sympathy with him here. He is thrust into action without much warning. You see like Herrera's down, then you see Pogba just doing a couple of sprints like up and down the line, trying and get ready to go in. And you can really tell, right? The first few minutes of Pogba in midfield, he looks like a guy who hasn't gone through his normal full warm-up routine. And to be fair to Paul Pogba, he is not used to coming off the bench.
Yeah.
That's not his game, right? He has been a starter at Juventus for multiple seasons, then a starter for Man United every time he's fit. I mean, this is new territory for grown-up Paul Pogba.
He honed his skills in not coming off the bench when he was first at Manchester United.
Is that right?
So that's where he first got good at not being played and sitting on the bench. Then he went to Juventus and did all that playing. And then he came back. So at least he has some practice with it.
You get what I'm saying, though? It's new to him to be a guy coming off the bench.
Oh, I know. Yes, yeah. I was simply making fun of the fact that there's already many people out there wondering if he's going to move on. So that's fun.
Is it really that bad?
No, I don't think so.
I kind of think this is more just a battle of wills between Mourinho and Pogba. But it's not. I think Mourinho is actually very good at this, where he doesn't escalate it to the level of a massive fallout. It's more just keep needling Paul Pogba until he accepts that maybe some of the stuff McTominay's doing, who is, not as good a player. He didn't look bad at all, but not as good a player in terms of what he can do with the ball compared to Paul Pogba. So I think this is just all part of Mourinho's long game.
I think so. I think I was really inclined to believe that there wasn't any truth to these stories, that there was bad blood. Then just today with him not starting, I did have some question marks. One of the things that made me as a United fan think, okay, it's not quite that bad, was Frank Lampard, who said Mourinho loves Pogba. He wants him to be a success. He is not doing this for any other reason other than to extract more out of him and give him a nudge. It is part of the personality of being a top manager that makes you make these kind of calls.
It's about different parenting styles, right? It's the tough love approach to Paul Pogba.
And if one person out there who knows how Jose Mourinho operates and treats players, it would be Frank Lampard and maybe John Terry. Those are the two. So,
who actually he did have a falling out with John Terry at some point.
I back Frank Lampard.
Yeah. But say this, I would have a falling out with John Terry.
Yeah, lots of people would, and lots of people have. But it does still just feel like, there's something not quite right, and maybe that's players haven't necessarily bought into Mourinho's tactics. Maybe it's a personality clash. Maybe it's betting in new players like Alexis Sanchez. Either way, it's going to take a big effort, I think, for Man United to really get everybody back on board, at least all the fans and the neutrals, to think, oh, this is a big, exciting game.
And here's the other thing, is it really that bad? Once again, 0-0 draw, away in Sevilla.
Yep.
United are second in the league. I know Man City are running away, but United are second in the league. I feel like there's, forgive me Man United fans, but I feel like there's a lot of complaining when United are actually in a better position than they have been for many years.
Yes.
Ever since Ferguson retired, I think this is the best season they've put together.
It's certainly up there. I would say, I think you have a lot of people, and I saw people posting the stats of when Mourinho last won the league with Chelsea when they played Man United and beat them 1-0. I think they had 30% of possession. They had 140 passes completed. United had 750.
Yeah.
This is what Mourinho does.
Yes, his whole life, his whole career.
And I think I was one who said, coming out of Louis van Gaal era, that
United?
it would I will welcome a 1-0 grind out game. It would just be nice to get results. But I think the implication and the understanding that a lot of people have is but it's going to be Mourinho. It's going to be regimented. Everyone is going to be clearly executing this game plan. It's just going to be a very defensive game plan.
It's just that you see holes in the game plan.
When you see holes in the game plan, you wonder
the Matic Smalling thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
it just makes a little bit of cause for concern, not pause for concern.
Because that does not exist.
It does not.
All right, we can talk a little more Mourinho later.
Yes.
But should we move on to the second game of the day?
Sure.
So on the big screen, we had Man United Sevilla. On the small screen, I know because we've been talking about this, people have been wondering, it was Shakhtar Donetsk hosting Roma. Roma took an early lead. Shakhtar equalised and then went ahead. They won the game with a free kick from Fred. Big win for Shakhtar.
So we had the tradition continuing that the game on the smaller screen was the more of the goal fest of the two, right? It just wasn't quite as much. Yeah.
Can we talk about Roma? So we didn't really pay as much attention to this game, but can we talk about Roma's goal to open the scoring? Scored by, I believe, Under. I believe he's a Turkish player.
Cengiz Under.
But it's all about Edin Dzeko in the build-up. This is so good that if you haven't seen it, and I suspect a lot of people listening may not have seen it because Shakhtar Roma is maybe not the game to pay attention to, check out Edin Dzeko's, what would you call it, his assist, his creative play in the assist for Under.
You spotted this one because it's a good little bit of build-up from Roma. They're moving the ball around, right to left to right, all that good stuff. Ball out wide, goes into Edin Dzeko. He's able to control and then play that through ball that I think nobody sees coming. He threads it between two players into the path of Under, who's able to finish.
What he does is he kind of, as the play starts getting towards the goal, naturally people start dropping to defend their goal. Edin Dzeko picks the perfect moment to skip backwards, kind of, receive the ball, and do that thing that I love where players drag the ball away from an opponent, but then with the next move, clip it through and a little bend on the pass and it clips in behind the defenders for Under. It's so simple, but I think it's one of those things that is a lot harder than it looks. So it's worth a look, especially when you think that a lot of people think of Edin Dzeko as big target man. Edin Dzeko just good for heading goals in.
Yeah.
And he's good with the other end of his body.
He's really good with the other end of his body. He's also really good at least in this sequence, making the sort of Luis Suarez decisions of when do you sprint in and try to crash the box versus when do you hang back and cause problems. And in this situation, that little yard and a half, say, hop back that he does just to get a little bit of space.
Like Facebook does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is that a thing? I don't know what that is.
It used to be.
Okay.
It's when it would show you some hop back. It would like show you something from a year ago or something.
What? Really?
Maybe it's called time hop.
God,
I may have this wrong. We are not editing this out.
It's good to know that they've just been making poor decisions for a long, long time. But that little bit of separation is important because by the time that ball is played, once it's gone, if you watch, there are 3 different Shakhtar players closing down Edin Dzeko, and they're all basically touching him, like right up on him after the ball has gone.
Yep.
So if he doesn't create that space, they're on him immediately. That ball gets poked away. Nothing comes of it. But in this situation, because of his decision-making, it leads to a goal.
But wonderful as that goal was, it was not enough to win the game. Let's talk Shakhtar's equaliser, which is also weirdly worth seeing because it's a thing you don't see very often. It is Shakhtar with the ball.
I wasn't sure which thing was going to be a thing we don't see very often.
What you don't see very often in top-level professional football, which is exactly what the UEFA Champions League is, right? Is a centre-back. It's Rakitsky in this game for Shakhtar. Bring the ball out of the back, and he's got the whole team ahead of him and all of Roma ahead of him to try and he just plays a pass straight through the Roma defence for his striker, Ferreira, to run onto and score.
Yeah.
That happens in the amateur league that we play in with a well-placed pass and maybe a defender that's switched off and you've got a pacey striker.
Yeah.
That should not be happening in the UEFA Champions League.
It probably shouldn't. I think I think Di Francesco, the Roma coach, would agree with you that it should not be happening. And what we can't figure out because...
Did you just look that up?
Oh, it's right in front of me. Otherwise, I would definitely not have done that. No. If you asked me, I would have been like, who I think managed yesterday.
He manages Sevilla.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, see, it all throws me off. But I think we couldn't really see from the wide angle we had, but it looked like the back four for Roma had really tucked in. They were very compact. And I don't know if that is what Rakitsky spotted or if he just thought, that guy's making a run, I'm going to bang it in there. If something happens, it happens.
It had the feeling of, Ferreira's fast, Ferreira's running, I'm going to play this.
Yes, it did. But there's
Which
like
again,
a little...
very Sunday league.
There's a little tiny inkling... No, it shouldn't. There's a little tiny inkling of... I've referenced it before with like the water boy, when the place kicker like spots the guy who he knows is going to drop the ball. And
is
it's
that
like,
the Adam Sandler movie?
Yeah, and it's D'Angelo Barksdale who says it, and he curses in the line, so I won't say it. I think you had this exact reaction last time I mentioned it. But it's like just spotting the guy who has the nervous face and the wide eyes and being like, oh yeah, that's who I'm kicking this ball to. And I do wonder if maybe Rakitsky saw Florenzi and was like, oh yeah, you're going to try to whiff this while pulling a 360 spin.
So Florenzi's the right back that tries to cut it out and does exactly what you just described. Okay, so maybe he was targeted.
He just loves breakdancing.
But even then, Ferreira is one-on-one with Manolas, the centre-back, and pulls a simple but beautiful move, ends up nutmegging Manolas before he beats Alisson in the Roma goal.
Children out there who are trying to learn all of the different scissors and step overs, like to beat a defender, the cut. That's all you need.
The cut.
The cut is all you need.
Why is the cut all you need?
Because, especially in this situation, the cut is usually with the instep foot to
I'm
cut
sorry,
back.
just in case no one's played soccer, what is a cut?
Yeah, it's basically like, say you're dribbling down the sideline, you've got a defender like trailing you, you go to fake the ball and you just cut back. Almost always that defender is going to overrun the ball, and then you've created a little bit of space.
It's just a change in direction.
That's all it is.
It's as simple as that.
And I think that is the beauty here, is that Ferreira, running at full speed, recognizes the defender.
Manolas?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I always get Manolas and Manotas confused. Very different. But he recognizes that he's running at full speed, but he's also got good position. He's goal side. Ferreira's going to have to do something, but because it's all about speed, he just does the little outside of the foot cut through, and basically that's all it takes.
Do you think the nutmeg is accidental?
Oh,
just a happy accident of the cutback? Because it's more about sort of making Manolas keep running in the wrong direction, essentially.
I think so. And I will say there's also a distinct possibility that a lot of movie references are coming out, much like Seabiscuit. Ferreira lets...
I did not think that was where we were
there you
going.
go. Seabiscuit with War Admiral. He lets him catch up. They look eye to eye, and then like the one is so focused that the other one just takes off. And in this situation, I got so excited I hit my mic. In this situation, I do wonder if Ferreira basically slows up to let Manolas get up to him, but he's so focused then on catching up that Ferreira is a little bit more in control because he's not running at full speed, just does that little cut and is able to fool his defender.
1-1. Shakhtar.
Seabiscuit would be proud.
He certainly would. So first goal is from Under, second goal from Seabiscuit. Third goal is from Fred. Not that one. Not the Fred who played for Brazil and had a terrible, terrible 2014 World Cup. This is a different Fred. Although he does have some Brazil national team caps.
Is he Brazilian? I can never remember. It's tough to tell with Shakhtar
he has
where
a handful of
they're
caps.
from.
I looked him up before we started recording.
I love Shakhtar because match day squad of 18, one Argentinian player, everyone else from the Ukraine or from Brazil, and some of the Ukrainians are also from Brazil.
So we've got to talk about this free kick, but I also want to talk about what happens in the build-up.
Okay.
Because I believe, so obviously there's a foul for the free kick at the top of the box. I believe when we went back to rewatch this, you said, I'll bet you Nainggolan is involved in this. And you were thinking that he's going to foul someone, right?
Yeah.
Turns out you were wrong. It's Strootman that commits the foul.
Nainggolan's still kind of involved.
Nainggolan's very involved because he commits a very, a basic error. So I've just realised there are two very basic errors on Roma's part to concede the goals, right? So the basic error from Nainggolan...
See, Man United fans, it could be worse.
It could be worse. Nainggolan is... A ball is passed to him in his own defensive third, and instead of stepping towards it, as we are all coached to do, meet the ball, make sure you get there first, he just dances backwards away from it as if he's just waiting for the ball to come to him, not thinking that someone's going to step and win it. And then, glory of glories, the man that steps to win it is called Stepanovski. Stepanovski for Shakhtar.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Steps and wins the ball.
Stepanenko.
Oh, even better. Stepanenko. My apologies. Stepanenko. Ruined my joke. But Stepanenko steps and wins the ball.
I only remember that because we wished that it were Stepanenko. But then it would be perfect. But yeah, steps through, and that really is.
Maybe it's Ukrainian for Stepanenko.
Yeah, sure. But that is like the cardinal sin of like a soccer player. Any coach is going to lose their mind if that ball comes to you and you're just standing there waiting for it and somebody intercepts. You're going to hear about it.
Yep, certainly should. So yeah, then on the dribble afterwards, Marlos, who is I think the guy who is Brazilian but plays for the Ukraine national team.
Indeed. It's tough to tell with the single name Marlos.
Yeah, and is fouled by Strootman. So then Fred sets it up. Here's the interesting thing for me in this goal. Is Fred, I think, is told by the referee that he can't move the ball farther backwards. It seems like the referee places the ball, does the magic spray, and then Fred tries to sneak it backwards. And then I had the reaction of, why is that a problem? If you want to take it farther from goal, why not? And you very cleverly said...
Well, there's two things. I said one thing at the time, but there's two things. One is that it is true that like you can be too close to the goal to get the ball up and over the wall and then back down. So that can be part of it, is that if you want to move the ball back a little bit, it gives you just a little bit more distance to get that ball back down. But the second thing is when the referee draws that line, he marks off 10 yards, so that wall is now 10 yards away. If you move the ball back a yard, now it's 11 yards. Again, you've got a little bit more space to maneuver and operate. Right. I think that's why he moved that ball right back.
So he had to move it back to where the referee said, but then... Fred steps up.
Still hit it.
Gets it up and down really fast anyway. It just shaves the underside of the bar, I believe, for the winner.
But he was, like, how much more of a talking point? Like, it's an amazing goal. It will be talked about. How much more of a talking point would it have been if it just hit the crossbar and came back? Because it was like...
Because then we'd be saying if they'd let him hold it backwards a little bit, that would have gone in.
It would have. Because it does still hit the crossbar, and you've got to imagine if it was a yard or a foot or whatever back, it goes clean in. But I'm glad it didn't, because tinging the underside of the crossbar and then still going in is like the best type of goal there is.
We didn't hear the noise on the audio, but someone must have heard the ding.
I'm going to guess Allison did.
And boy, was his face red afterwards. But I think that's because it was really cold.
Also that. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so it finishes Sevilla 0, Manchester United 0. Yep. That sets up an interesting second leg at Old Trafford where Mourinho will be proved right or wrong. Yeah. Shakhtar 2, Roma 1 sets up a really good second leg, I think. Roma at home with the away goal already. They're going to go for it. That will be interesting. Yep. So turns out Champions League's fun even when it's not.
It is.
If it's not great on the day, it just sets up more greatness in the future.
That is the like silver lining with a bad first leg, is that it then sets up likely a good second leg, whereas if you have a 5-0 win in the first leg, well, you probably don't need to switch into the next round unless you want to see young players play.
Yes, which is also... See, we can find a silver lining in it.
Yeah. Phil Foden starts at Man City.
Later in today's show, we've got 3 glorious, hand-selected, in that I selected them by tapping on my keyboard, listener questions. But first...
Hand-hewn. Yeah.
Today's show is sponsored by Squarespace.
It sure is.
Squarespace helps you build and host your website. Everybody's going with Squarespace these days. It's time to get on board.
It is indeed. And so we obviously use Squarespace ourselves.
TotalSockShow.com. Go visit.
We've talked about the many other folks who do use Squarespace.
Carlos Cordero, U.S. president.
In trying to find a way to discuss this one today, I looked up JoseMourinho.com is not a thing.
It's not?
Someone has the registered domain, but
they're not doing anything with it?
Nope.
Oh, no.
Nope. So he has not built a Squarespace site, nor has Paul Pogba, which actually did surprise me.
That's interesting. I thought he would have a brand.
You would think so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's selling his own apparel yet. But when he does, that website will come.
So here's my theory is that Jose Mourinho's brand has somewhat been tarnished in recent years. He used to be the special one. He used to be, the manager everybody wanted, right? Real Madrid sort of went all out to get him a few years back.
I remember Stephen Cohen of like World Soccer Daily, World Soccer Talk, whatever it was.
World Football Daily.
Thank you. I remember him referring to Mourinho after leaving Chelsea as just this like specter looming over all of European soccer, because it was every major club. If their coach started to struggle, it was like, he is waiting to take your job.
But that is not the situation anymore, right? Especially if you've got Manchester United fans complaining about the way the team is playing soccer. So I was thinking, if Jose Mourinho were to do something with that domain, that's definitely him owning it. It's not, is it? But if Mourinho was to set up a website to remind people of what a great coach he really is, what would Jose Mourinho put on there?
Actually, I think what he would do is just put nothing on there, because that is, I feel like that's a Mourinho thing. It's like, I'll buy it, I'll have it, but I'm not going to use it. And you will come to appreciate my lack of use of this website.
He put something very defensive on
Yes. Yeah, obviously.
That was his defensive move. This is like man-marking Eden Hazard.
Wall. It's just an image of a wall.
He's buying the domain and not doing anything with it. It's his version of man-marking JoseMourinho.com. But let's say he was going to do something with it.
Sure.
And he wanted to build his portfolio, because Squarespace is a great place to do your portfolio if you're a photographer, a podcaster. If you're a coach who wanted to enhance his reputation, you're Jose Mourinho, what would you put on there? Career highlights.
I think the obvious one to start, as we've talked about previously, is the Porto game when he at Old Trafford. Maybe don't play that one so much these days, but when he eliminated Man United en route to the Champions League final with Porto, sprinting down the sideline and celebrating, but also maybe a little bit of the tactics that go into it, because I think the sprint down the sideline tends to get highlighted from that game, maybe not the tactics and the way he set his team up to win.
I would think I would put the interview clip on when he refers to himself as I am a special one.
Oh, my goodness.
Which I think was partly his not perfect grasp of English. You know what I mean? It's more like, I'm an accomplished coach is essentially what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It could be. Or it could just
became
be
a whole thing.
Colossal ego. It's also a possibility.
I would also have some of the puppet. Do you remember the puppet?
Oh, I remember the puppet.
Yeah, the Special One puppet. I thought Special One TV, that's what it was called. I really enjoyed that. It was really funny.
I'll never...
So it'd be like, remember when I was a cultural phenomenon and not sort of a man people complain about.
I just remember after they... Chelsea lost to Man United, courtesy of a Nemanja Vidic header. His dramatic breakdown of the game, where it was going to be all his tactical analysis, just cut to the puppet standing on the sideline, and the voiceover was, "Shut up, Vidic," and then that was it. Shut up, Vidic.
In more recent years, I think it would include that Inter performance against Barcelona, where they shut Barcelona down in the second leg, right? Won on away goals, I believe.
Yep.
So shut them down enough to win on away goals. Let's put it that way. He got Samuel Eto'o to play right wing.
Probably the return to Chelsea as well, and just kind of how he was able to kickstart them and do the Mourinho
but
effect.
Then that would cut short after the one season, right?
Yeah, there's two seasons. He had the first season where they didn't challenge for the title, but he was typical Mourinho. Then they challenged for the title and won. Then he was fired.
I didn't know that.
3-season Mourinho, baby.
Oh, that's what I would call the website.
Yep.
If JoseMourinho.com is taken, it should be 3seasons.com.
Oh, no. Well, in all seriousness, I do think
3 seasons and a movie to give it a community style.
Yeah, that works. I do wonder if part of the reason why United fans are so frustrated, maybe a bit more emotional than they would be otherwise, is the fact that they did just renew his contract, which I think was meant to be a sign by all parties of like, see, it's all working, everything's different.
Yeah.
And then after that, for things to look kind of wobbly, I think is where some of that frustration and consternation comes from.
All right. So if you've been trying to skip through
Don't
this
worry,
ad,
I made it positive and then brought it back to negativity.
If you've been trying to skip through this ad, then unlucky, because you found us still at the end of the ad. It's been a long read. We were talking about a Squarespace Jose Mourinho website. It would be very easy for him to build it, because part of the glory of Squarespace is that it's very easy to do the design and put the various elements of a page together yourself without really being a designer or knowing any of the sort of deep coding and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
If you want to build your own website, you go to squarespace.com. You get a free trial, so you can build a website, see what it looks like, and then you can decide, yes, this works for me. Then when you launch it, that's when you pay. You use the discount code TSS, that's TSS, for 10% off your website.
There we are. So thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's program. Thank you to Jose Mourinho for giving us a way to discuss Squarespace.
Giving us plenty to talk about, right?
Indeed.
Sometimes I like ads like that when sometimes we just like come up with an idea to do a Mourinho retrospective because there'd be no reason to do that in the body of a show normally.
No.
Right?
I just need you to know how many ideas I shut down in my own brain just now because there were probably about 13 things. This could have been a 4.5-hour show.
Well, we just set the world record for ad reads.
Oh, yeah.
The world's longest
My
ad
brain
read.
is feeling rambly.
All right, so...
Which is good because we have the highly structured section of listener questions coming up.
First question.
Yeah.
These are good questions.
Yeah.
First question is from Ben Gullman. Ben wants to know, why is there no US men's national team and or US women's national team, B teams, that play against lesser opposition, so other B teams, while the main team plays bigger opposition during each international break? More games for more players in the national setup would ease transition to the highest levels.
Yep.
I think it's a good suggestion.
It's not a bad suggestion. I think the answer, if you're looking for a realistic answer, is arrogance and branding would be my guess. That
I'm with you on the branding, but I don't know about the arrogance.
Because I don't think a person would say you're playing in Germany and you get called up by the U.S. national B team for a friendly in the United States. Do you leave your club to fly all the way across the Atlantic to play for the B team where you are basically being branded as not quite good enough? I don't know if players would want to do that. And then from a coaching standpoint, from a branding standpoint, to say, like, yep, this is our B team, it just makes it sound not very good for the people that are involved.
What if it is the type of player that gets invited to the men's national team January camp?
Yep.
Like, say, Brooks Lennon, Danilo Costa, like those younger guys who don't yet have a senior cap. I think it makes sense for them as a sort of when you've aged out of the age group teams, it gives you a chance to still be involved in a US national team. Because I think the US has enough. I don't want to say we have like quality in depth, but we have depth of players that are involved with the US national team program, and it might be good to be able to give them a run out against other teams and just keep them involved in international football, keep them involved in the US soccer organization. So there's a US soccer coach who's working with them. Rather than waiting for the next January camp. Because there are some players who only get called up for January camp.
This is true. There are several. It's like the best trivia because there'll be people who get called up for like the January camp in 2012, and that's their only cap until they get called up like 6 years later or something like that. Yeah. I would say, let me amend what I said earlier. Arrogance is maybe the wrong word. Maybe ego is what I should have said.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think it's arrogant to be like, I don't know if I want to make that trip, but there is an element of, do I want to do that for ego? And I do wonder, do you think those Major League Soccer players, like January camp, it is the B camp, right? Like we kind of know it
Basically,
to be that.
right.
More or less, it is that. Yeah.
Especially when the best players were in Europe, which is what we're going to get to in the end eventually. Right?
Or
With
this
everybody
past
going
January
overseas
camp,
now.
where it was like the more senior players were not involved. And it's unofficially that, but if you officially make it that, I do wonder if players would be concerned about being branded as a B team player.
I see.
And the
idea is the B team is a stepping stone to the A team.
That's the idea, and I think you would just
not
have
the TV
to,
show, but the
I think you would really have to make it like put somebody who's right on the verge of making the senior team consistently on the B team, and then be like, see, he made it. Because otherwise, when you have that little bit of like identification as a B player, maybe you might be hesitant to accept that call up.
The other angle is, would US Soccer and would Soccer United Marketing be able to sell these games?
And would other national teams want to come play the B team? Because I think you are going to get lower tier opposition, but the argument would be that it's the B team playing, so why not have them do it?
So you could maybe not. So when England have done this in the past, and I've got some stuff to say about that because I've experienced watching England B. I think within CONCACAF, the US could play against not other B teams, but they could play not so strong other national teams. I'm trying to think of like Jamaica's too good, but maybe El Salvador would be willing to send the El Salvador national team to play the US men's national team B team.
Yeah. I do. First of all, I think we should just go high school sports model, and you have
varsity.
Yep, varsity and JV. You play in the same stadium. B team gets to play after the A team is done. There you go.
Can I ask you this way? Would you watch? Like, say there's in March coming up. Say there were 2 US men's national team games, regular national team, but then there were also 2 B team games that were maybe played the day before each one. Would we watch both? Would we do podcasts about both? Like, how much attention would we give to it?
My honest answer to this is I would watch. I would probably not be excited to watch, and that is because that is how I feel about the January camp. Like, it is national team players. but we know what this is. It's going to be C plus, B minus level opposition we're going against. Is that exciting? No, it's the U.S. national team, so it's always a thing you're going to want to watch. But when it's branded as the B team, I don't know if it's going to be like I don't know if these guys are going to make it. I don't know if it would be as compelling, but I also do think, to Ben's point, it would still be more national team games, more international experience. It would make sense to get more people involved on a more consistent basis.
I think I have a solution, but first I just want to share my experience of England B. So I've definitely seen England B play, and it's normally in the build-up to a World Cup where the England coaches are just trying to get a look at as many players as possible, right? So I looked it up. Over time, England B has played 57 times. Which actually isn't that much when you think how many international dates there are. And it's usually in the couple months before a World Cup where you just want to give everybody a roll out, right? The most recent was 2006. I think Aaron Lennon got a run out, and I think he eventually made the World Cup squad on the back of it. But the most memorable for me is in the build-up to the 1998 World Cup, and my sort of Premier League hero, Matt Letizia, got an England B call-up with the idea that this is your chance to prove yourself in an England shirt. If you do well, we'll give you a shot at the full England team. You can go to a World Cup and do those magical things you do, Matt Letizia. He goes out there against Russia, I think it's Russia B, scores a hat-trick of brilliant goals. Like it's like a Matt Letizia highlight reel, but in one game. Scores a hat-trick, does not get selected for England at all.
Totally served its purpose.
It was of no use. It was almost as if it seemed like England had called him up for the B match, thinking, we're going to prove that he's not that useful. You know what I mean? And then we'll use that as evidence to not pick him. But instead, he scored a hat-trick and they still didn't pick him.
Yeah. that was
basically it, right?
That was very, very kind of them. Good stuff by them. Here's my question then, Daryl.
Yeah.
Say you did establish this as the A and the B team. If you get a very exciting breakout player, say Weston McKennie before he got his first call-up to the national team, does he have to go play for the B team first if you have an uncapped player, or can they bypass?
I'd say you can bypass.
So it really is just high school then. It's basically the freshman has come in. Ooh, he or she is very, very good. They're going to go straight to the varsity team.
Think of it this way. Think of it as, say McKennie is impressing, right? And you've got a game coming up, but you think, the roster's already full, right? I've got my 23 guys. McKennie is the fifth choice of 4 central midfielders, 2 spots to start, 2 to fill in.
Okay.
He's fifth. We just can't get him on the roster. But I would love to get him involved. One thing they have done in the past is just called a player like that into the squad to just kick around with the squad, right? So you're not officially on the squad, but you're involved, so you meet everybody. But the other thing you could do with a B squad is still give him a call-up and let him play in that game, right? So it's like an overflow, essentially. It's an overflow of players that aren't actually good enough right now to be in the senior team, but we can get you involved and get you a run out in a US national team shirt.
All right. Next question, maybe final question. We'll see. Does whomever takes over as the U.S. national team coach both teams?
It would be tough, right? Because they should be focused. If they're playing around the same time, they should be focused on the A team. So I guess the answer is no. You need a whole extra. It'd be one of the assistant coaches.
Like the JV sort of coach, maybe?
Yeah. It'd be one of the assistant coaches on the senior team would go to the B team.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the solution I came up with in my head while we were talking is we keep failing to qualify for the Olympics with an under-23 team. Part of the problem is that the under-23 team seems to only exist during Olympic qualifying and maybe like for a couple months beforehand.
It's almost like it's arbitrary and not all that important.
But it seems like maybe there should be regular U23 games. And then it would be younger players like, say, Brooks Lennon, who is not likely to get a senior team call-up in the near future, right? Because there's a lot of players ahead of him. But would probably be part of that U23 team when we go to Olympic qualifying. So why not have the U23 team play with the idea that, okay, you're going to be of the age to play U23 when we actually do qualifying for the 2020 Olympics? Get them together now so they start to form a team.
That's where I am. Because to clarify, I was saying the age groups, not the Olympics. Olympics, not arbitrary and unnecessary. I do love the idea of having an Olympic qualifying team that just plays together, trains together when they're around.
And gets a couple years in before qualifying comes. Because how often do we watch that U23 team fail to qualify? Twice recently, by the way. And it doesn't look quite like a unified team because they haven't had that much practice.
And you don't get that much time together. And when you do, you've got new faces and new names. And you're trying to blend everybody together. And obviously you don't want to call in your young starlets who could then turn things around. And then they get capped by other teams. It's fine. It's whatever.
So we solved it.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben, for that question.
Sure. Next question comes from Ira Jersey. In designing a roster from scratch, Do you think it's better to find the most talented players and then figure out a system? Or is it better to choose a system, for example, high press, possession, or counter, and then choose players that best fit that system? Ira asks for 2 reasons. First, this may be something the new U.S. national team manager, well done, Ira, will have the option of doing. Well done, Daryl. Second, is that the addition of a number of new teams in the USLD 3 who will be needing to make this decision.
And the example Ira used was, he said Statesboro. I think he means, is it Tormenta FC, which is the team from Statesboro, Georgia.
Well,
the founding member of
I
USLD3.
believe it's from the United States, and so it states borough, and you will pronounce it properly. If I have to say Middlesbrough and then get yelled at when I say it wrong.
Torrenta FC, I'm going to say that. How about that? So yeah, essentially, if you're starting from scratch, do you go players first and then see what works best? Or do you go system first and then pick players to suit? I don't know the answer to this. I'm kind of excited to talk it out, but I really don't know what the best way to go is. I also think LAFC are maybe a good example, because didn't they announce Bob Bradley before they announced any players?
I don't know. That seems...
Before they announced many
I get
players.
so confused by a lot of the rumors they had, because they were on the verge of announcing, I believe, everyone who's ever played soccer before.
Maybe Carlos Vela came first? We have to have a timeline of who lifted their cap up to reveal their face.
Yes. But Bob Bradley was one of the originals. That is certain. I would say Ira has helped us by giving us those 2 options, because I think if you're a national team manager, you work with what you have and you make it fit into whatever system you think will best exploit or utilize those talents.
But as a national team manager, don't you get to decide what you have?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, that's always the joke about like Big Sam taking over England, is like he can't go out and buy any more players. He's going to have to figure this out. I don't know why he was the one that got that criticism, because I'm pretty sure every national team coach has managed a club where they bought players. But anyway, but I think you have the pool that you have.
Kevin Nolan was not available.
That's good stuff right there. But I think if you're the national team manager, you have the pool you have. And yes, you can call in certain players or like focus on a certain group of players or a type of player, but you're still then excluding other very, very talented players that I don't know if you want to do. So maybe it is, if you're the national team coach, you have a rough idea of what you want to do, but then you tinker with it a little bit to make sure that you're not leaving out the person who won, I don't know, the Golden Boot in the Champions League. Not a problem for the United States.
So you're saying
right
for a national team manager, and specifically for the next men's national team manager, you have to look at what you've got and then decide what's the best thing I can do with this group of players. Okay, I'm on board with that.
I would think so. I mean, that's my rough take, but Can
I guess where you're going? Then you're saying, and then for a new team like the USL D3 team, which I keep saying Tormenta or Torrenta. I think it's Torrenta FC. You're saying that maybe you get to do it the other way around, because you start with an actual clean slate. Yeah,
you start with an identity, I think, at least, and then coming in, people know exactly what to expect when you're building that roster. Maybe you're not going to get like all the players you would like, but you'll get people who understand what you're doing. If you're a coach who right away says, "Look, we're going to play high pressure, high intensity," then they know, like, okay, I better be fit, I better be ready to go. Yeah, exactly. Or Dimitar Berbatov, not going to fit that system, and that is part of it, because if you're starting a franchise and you have a couple signings go wrong, that could shoot down a whole organization. We've talked about them before. Atlanta United got lucky that Kenwyne Jones kind of didn't blow up in their faces, but he's gone now. But that was one where if you're going to play this like high fluid attacking system or high pressure, high press, high fluid attacking system, Kenwyne Jones doesn't really do that.
Because Jones predated Martino, I believe.
Yes. I think we've talked about this before and then got some corrections. So I'm sorry to take us down this road. But that's what I mean to say, is that if you bring in a super high profile player or even for like USL D3 status, if you're bringing in
the equivalent of a super high profile player, right? Someone who maybe had a really good professional career and is only 32. Let's say you do that. You've got to build your team around that guy, because you're probably paying him more than anybody else.
And this is not maybe either thing that Ira Jersey suggested, but say, like an example would be Joe Cole, who's been playing with the Tampa Bay
Joseph
Rowdies.
Colesif?
Yes, exactly. But say you are, like maybe he's not quite at that level anymore, maybe he's getting a little bit on, but a D3 team wants to sign him as a way, like people will come see him, people will come see Joe Cole.
I kind of think that is part of the Joe Cole. I mean, they also signed Freddie Adu, right? I think part of that was, let's get some names on the field.
Yeah, but if you bring him in and your stated objective is to play high-pressure soccer, I don't know if that's what he's going to do, but if you want him to like possess the ball and slow it down in the middle, maybe that signing makes sense. And so that's where I think...
Shoot from distance, glorious World Cup goals.
Yep, yeah.
Get Joe Cole.
And also, let me just say this. If you're starting... Sorry to keep going. Told you I was rambly, though. But if you're starting a club from scratch, make it part of your identity. Be like the pressurizers. And that's the name of your club.
The Pittsburgh Pressurizers.
The Tampa Bay Bus Parkers.
You can't put a style of play in the team name.
I love this idea.
You are so stuck with it at that point.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Do the Richmond Kickers score goals? Do they kick them in?
They've chosen the thing that is always going to be in soccer.
Is
right?
it though? Just wait till it's outlawed, Daryl. Just wait.
Kicking.
I am
headers only.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think the other way around is much more likely.
Revolutionary League. It's for SEALs. I do love the idea of the bus parkers, though. It's just a goal with a bus parked in front
Boston
of it.
Bus Parkers.
There we go. Perfect.
Ira, I hope we answered your question.
I think we did.
I think we did too.
I had a good time, so that's fine.
Today's final question comes from Zach Lippert. Zach wants to know, or he says, if Minnesota United, ends up pairing with St. Louis FC, which I assume is a rumour that's about to come true, then all Major League Soccer teams will have either a USL affiliate or a second team, as in Los Dos, right? Or Portland Timbers 2. So Zach wants to know, is a true second team like Los Dos better than having just an affiliate? An affiliate, good example being DC United have an affiliate deal with the Richmond Kickers. So maybe before we answer this question, is it worth just explaining the difference? Because
yes, it is.
I've realised that we tend to know more about the USL because we spend so much time watching the Kickers. We understand the terms of how it all works a bit more than other people do.
I'll also add, Travis Clark and I recorded a new episode of the At.our Soccer Show.
The what?
Yeah, have you not heard of it?
No.
It's usually very good. Like every other week when the English guy is on, it's good. When it's just two Americans, it all goes downhill.
That sounds about right.
But this week we did talk a little bit about this and about young players who basically we were trying to decide young players in Major League Soccer, which ones are going to be, I think we did starters, squad, or second. And that was like who's going to maybe get some minutes for the first team, who's going to be on the bench, and who's going to be for the second tier team. And we had a whole conversation about where would you like your players to go.
This is like Chris Durkee and Andrew Carlton, those kind of guys. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the idea being that...
It sounds like people should go download that and listen to it.
I think they probably should. And subscribe. Why not? I think, like, basically the idea being that you have some MLS clubs that just treat it. Toronto, for example, TFC2, play in USL, play the Richmond Kickers. As we pointed out in today's show, we're... Bunch of kids, and thus bottom of the division or second bottom.
Kickers were second bottom. TFC2 were absolute bottom.
And 15th. A big part of that is because it is a bunch of very young kids. There were some like 16-year-olds. I think at one point when the first time the Kickers played them, the oldest kid on the roster was like 21, maybe something like that. And so you're getting a lot of players coming through. It's a lot of fluidity. You're not actually building a team. It's not actually learning how to play together as a team. It's kind of, you need some minutes with another team, so go down and play with them. That can be problematic. Not trying to single out
This is a separate issue, but that's problematic for USL.
Yes.
I believe. It's problematic for the league when you have teams in it that don't take it seriously in terms of we need to win games. They just treat it as a place to let your academy kids have a run out.
I agree with you because the idea then is that like
that's a separate question, but
it is and it isn't though, because I agree with you at least to start that like, but it means that if you're an 18-year-old for Toronto who's not going to play for the senior team, but you can go out and maybe impress, that's great. But if you're a kid who like is very dependent on the system you're playing or the people around you to be able to like know what everybody else is doing, and you go out there and you're playing with people you've never played before, and you have a bad game, that can kind of ruin it for you. And so I do think that lack of consistency and cohesion can be a problem, but it's better than them not getting any minutes. So then you also have the situation like DC United have, where you have basically you don't have a USL team yet, so you have an affiliate relationship with a USL existing franchise. In this case,
that's where if you click on the link, they get a cut of the deal.
Yeah, totally, 100%, 100%.
So an affiliate deal is DC. I'm going to take the DC Kickers version. Is essentially you can send 5 players, or it seems to be the agreement. There's usually 5 players are loaned from DC United's first team roster, or are loaned to their affiliate, the Richmond Kickers, and those players play in the USL. So for DC, it's a chance to get 5 players who aren't getting minutes with the first team to go to USL and play for the Richmond Kickers.
Yes. So my answer to this is not going to be that helpful, but it's what I believe. Travis and I actually stumbled upon this when discussing Atlanta because neither one of us was entirely certain if they have severed the relationship with Charleston, who was their USL affiliate, but now they'll have Atlanta United too.
Yep.
But it sounds like they have sent 2 players on loan to Charleston for the duration of the season.
The Go-Get-'ems, as I call Atlanta.
Atlanta United too?
Yeah.
But they've sent 2 players to Charleston for this season.
Have they?
So,
did Romario Williams go?
No, he's back with Atlanta, and I think we'll maybe get some minutes. But it gave me this idea that like I do really enjoy the idea of having Toronto 2, or I guess Atlanta United 2, where you can kind of keep Andrew Carlton, Chris Goslin, if you want to call them up really quickly, if maybe, this guy's injured, we do need you on the bench just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you've
it's about geography, just keep them close by.
But then if you've got people that you maybe do want to see develop and get consistency and get consistent minutes and play with the same people, you send them out on loan to another established franchise like Charleston. And so you've got some guys there on a season-long loan and then the short-term loan with your second team.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that approach where you get the best of both worlds and those USL franchises get a few players in the deal.
So both is what you're going for.
It's the easiest way.
I think I prefer an approach where the
easiest way, to clarify, is saying both. Yeah.
It's always the answer,
yeah.
Right? My preferred way is to have a USL team that is your second team. I think sort of Swope Park Rangers do this with Sporting KC, or Sporting KC do this with Swope Park, and Philadelphia Union do this with Bethlehem Steel, where you take that USL team and you don't treat it like TFC2 treat it, where you just fill it with teenagers. You actually create a team where you have some players who are just on USL contracts. They're not MLS players. They're USL players who play for Bethlehem. But then you also fill that roster with the youngsters. There are some, Philadelphia Union Development Academy kids who are on that Bethlehem Steel roster. So it's a nice mix. And the benefit to me is that the kids actually get the experience of playing on a professional team with, and always against, but also with grown-ass men who are, playing for their jobs. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just, because essentially you're just playing on a U18 or U19 team if you're playing for that Toronto FC2 team.
I am now officially going to be calling Vitesse Arnhem the Bethlehem Steel of the Eredivisie.
But it's the exact situation, right? Where, Chelsea get to send guys like Matt Miazga there, but they're also playing alongside other loanees, but they're playing alongside professional Dutch players who are making a living, right? So you get the best of both worlds in that situation.
Right.
But you don't get the numerical advantage is the thing. Then the benefit to the Toronto FC2 version is that you maximize the number of kids that get to play.
Yeah. That's definitely true. But I go back to, maybe this isn't Ned Stark. That's definitely true, but we saw some of the away footage of the. I'm really sorry to keep picking on TFC2, but it's the one that comes.
It's the obvious example that we know, right? Montreal did it with I can't remember what the name of it was. It was like Impact Montreal. They had their
Montreal FC.
Montreal FC. They had their version of it. Then they killed it last year.
Yeah.
They were just.
We saw Balou Jean-Yves Tabla.
We did before he was a Barcelona player.
Yep.
Yeah. By the way, he's in the Scout Network. We're not getting any reports on him. So if there are any Canadian listeners out there who are in the Scout Network waiting for a player and you want Tabla, email Daryl at TotalSoccerShow.com.
French Canadian or just any Canadian?
Any Canadian.
Okay. But I remember watching those TFC2 games, and there were very, very, very few people in attendance. And again, that doesn't really give you the feeling of this is a different entity. This is a different animal. I got to raise my game. I mean, and I genuinely believe that playing in front of 100 people, it has a difference versus playing in front of 4,000 people.
Yes.
Eyes are on you. There's a little bit more pressure. It's going to bring out your game, or it's going to force you to adapt or not.
I think Chris Durkin, it was really helpful for him to play for the Richmond Kickers this year.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
this past year, 2017.
I know what you meant. And even those kind of the exhibition game, the Richmond Kickers playing Swansea, he looked very good in that game in front of 20,000 people, or
20,000?
No, that's way
About
wrong.
10,
8,000.
Okay.
Sorry, way wrong, or 9,000. But either way, it's an experience. It is something that you will remember, and it will make you, I think, raise your game. So I like this plan.
So I think we answered Zach's question. We basically, all of them are good in different ways. Is that the fairest way to say it?
It just depends on what you want out of them.
The best thing is to do it both ways, if you can. So Atlanta United, again, leading the way with an unofficial affiliate in Charleston and an actual Atlanta United 2 team.
That might just be because that contract isn't over, or whatever their deal was. We shall see.
But it might just work out nicely for both teams, right? Because I know Charleston's roster was looking pretty thin when I looked at it a couple of days ago when I went on the USL show. So maybe that was the plan all along, was to still, connect with Atlanta United, even if unofficially.
Makes sense.
Okay. Thank you to Ben, Ira, and Zach for those questions. I think we're planning to answer more listener questions tomorrow. There's always lots of really good listener questions to answer. If you'd like to leave us a question, totalsoccershow.com/questions. totalsoccershow.com/questions. And if you subscribe to TSS at $10 a month or more, we guarantee, 3 syllables, to answer at least one question per month.
We sure do. And if you subscribe at any level, then we will award you with a player to scout.
Yeah.
And we have several of those players
We do.
to discuss.
Plenty young Americans to talk about.
Indeed. Up first, Mason Kriz scouting Marco Farfan, the 19-year-old American left back for Portland. Farfan played the first half of Portland's 2-1 friendly loss to FC Dallas on Saturday, and it sounds like he may have fallen back to earth a bit in this game. Farfan was partially at fault for Dallas' second goal and was subbed out at halftime for Vitas, who apparently wasn't actually suspended. Mason had thought he was. That said, apparently none of the Timbers players played particularly well in the first half.
So was Farfan featured on your Top Draw Soccer Show conversation? Or
was.
he? Yeah. So what did you... Can you give a little spoiler? Like, do you think he'll make the first team roster or not?
I think I kind of parroted what Mason had written earlier, that it seems like he's in contention to start, that it's going to go back and forth, and Travis echoed that, which is basically that, yeah, he seems like he's up for the position.
So he's at least second choice left back,
Yes.
which means you make the first team roster because you need more than one. It's not
Yep.
like Highlanders.
Yeah, I think that was the misleading part, is that start meant, first of all, outstanding work. Second of all, start meant like start or occasionally play or occasionally get some minutes.
Oh, I see.
It wasn't like starting every single game.
Got it. Okay, Russell Varner is scouting Hugo Ariano, who's in a similar situation to Farfan, right? Because he's 19, he's American, and he's a defender, but he's with the LA Galaxy. So he's a little farther south. Hugo Ariano. Russell is curious if now is the time to panic about Hugo Ariano. The Galaxy have played 3 friendlies in the past week, but Hugo got the same amount of minutes in those games as Russell did, meaning 0.
Yep.
Ariano was not even named to the game day squads, and it is looking increasingly likely that he will start the season with Los Dos.
Yeah. Slightly more depressing news comes from Carolyn Akari scouting Kellen Acosta, the 22-year-old American midfielder for FC Dallas.
Oh, Dallas are playing right now in the CONCACAF Champions League.
What Kellen Acosta is not. He did not make the trip to Panama for Wednesday's CONCACAF Champions League opener against Taro FC due to a groin injury. Acosta had been held out of several training sessions and only came on as a sub in the 77th minute of FC Dallas' final preseason match against Portland last Saturday.
Oh, that's that game that Mason was talking about.
Indeed. Even worse, according to the Dallas Morning News, Acosta came off in that friendly with what appears to be a re-aggravation of the old injury.
So I was about to say there's good news that he's at least back, but yeah, Acosta's season is having a bit of a slow start. Maybe he'll be in form in time for a move in the summer?
Yeah. Transfer protest? Is that what's happening? Yeah.
Transfer protest, yeah. Random thought, the Dallas Morning News, do they only report news that happens in the morning?
My honest guess here is that when you used to have morning and afternoon
of course,
editions or
yes.
evening editions, so maybe they were just only in the morning.
That makes sense. Good answer. Alex
You
Trammell.
know the Richmond doesn't Times Dispatch, right? That's not a thing that happens anymore.
He doesn't dispatch the time?
No, it does not. That would be great if that was their sole feature of the newspaper, was
Every time
to
you
constantly update you on the time.
So they have to print a new one every minute.
And it's out of date by the time you get it, yes.
Well, like most newspapers.
There you go.
Alex Trammell, apologies to all
Shots
people
fired.
in the newspaper
Shots fired, print
industry.
media.
I'm just remembering, there's an episode of The Daily Show where they went to the New York Times, and I can't remember who the correspondent was, but they confronted the executive editor and said, show me one thing in here that happened today. Which is horrible and true.
A little bit.
Right?
It allows for more nuance. A more well-researched article.
Moving on, Alex Trammell is scouting Gianluca Busio, the 15-year-old American forward for Sporting KC. Busio is a guy we are excited about. Alex says that Gianluca Busio has been training with the Sporting KC first team, scored against Phoenix and notched an assist against the Red Bulls in pre-season. He is likely to spend the majority of the season with Swope Park Rangers, good second team that plays in the USL, and has a chance to get significant minutes at just 15 years old. I also, thanks to Adam Bowles of Scuffed, I happened to see some highlights of Busio playing for Sporting KC. Great corner kick that was floated in that Sporting KC scored on. It's a 15-year-old taking corners for Sporting KC.
I don't want to brag, but when I was 15, I was in gym class.
I'm 38 and I still can't take a corner.
That is true. Zach Betcher scouting Timothy Weah.
Wait, that's not true. I have taken corners. I've got like
best.
a 70% success rate.
You just try your little hardest. Timothy Weah, 17-year-old American forward for PSG. According to L'Equipe, Weah and PSG are in talks over a 1-year extension to his current contract, which would keep him at the club until June of 2021. He is reportedly a priority for the club moving forward, and recently scored for the PSG reserves after spending the bulk of his time with the U19s.
Moving up in the world then, he's gone U19s to PSG reserves.
I do wonder if there's going to be a series of like young players for PSG who benefit from the Neymar and Mbappe signings because PSG can't spend any more money. So they're like, well, we got to get some youngsters in here.
That would be the only affordable thing PSG could do, is promote guys like Tim Weah.
Or
kids like Tim. Is he a guy or a kid at this point?
He's a little. How old is he? Is he 17?
Yeah,
he's a kid.
He's a kid, right? Yeah.
But unless like the lawyers for PSG somehow manage to find massive loopholes that exploit them. I wonder if they'll be able to do that.
Oh, it just occurred to me that it may have been Alex himself who sent the Gianluca Busio video of the corner kick. So I just want to give credit where it's due. Whitney DeWall is scouting Haley Mace, the 20-year-old American forward/defender, versatile, for UCLA. Haley Mace has just received her first call-up to the senior women's national team, making the 26-player preliminary roster ahead of the She Believes Cup in March. Mace is coming off an impressive season with the UCLA Bruins, where she scored a team-high 15 goals with 3 assists, playing as a forward for the first time in her collegiate career. Before being moved to the forward line last season, Mace was a defender for UCLA and also trained in that position with the US under-23s.
Versatile. Dan Landau scouting Gio Reyna, the 15-year-old American midfielder for the NYCFC Academy.
Oh, he's been dropped back down, right?
Well, Gio left the NYCFC first-team preseason camp to join their U17s at the Georgia Cup in Atlanta. They beat DC United's U17s 2-1, Red Bulls U17s 4-0, and Philly U17s 3-0. That's 9 goals scored. Gio got 4.
So that's good, but I'm disappointed he didn't get more time with the first team.
I mean, he's 15, and they do not have a USL affiliate, as I recall.
Oh yeah,
they have an unofficial relationship with San Antonio, maybe, but I don't think it's actually an affiliate relationship, so that's part of the reason why, maybe.
Send your emails to taylor@totalsoccershow.com. Brooks Gatesmeyer.
San Antonio or Sacramento is one or the other.
Taylor@totalsoccershow.com. Brooks Gatsmeyer is scouting Nuhu, the 20-year-old Cameroonian left-back for Seattle. Brooks says that Nuhu preseason is coming to a close, and Nuhu is in a battle with the newly acquired Waylon Francis for a starting spot, which Brooks thinks the Cameroonian will win. Nuhu has stayed healthy through preseason. He's played well. He even got his name on a score sheet with a goal against Cal United FC on a nice through ball from Magnus Akram. We'll know more when the Sounders start their CONCACAF Champions League campaign this Thursday.
Tom Miller scouting Leon Bailey, the 20-year-old Jamaican and not English winger for Bayer Leverkusen.
Did we say he was English?
I wasn't sure if you'd read those stories. There was reports yesterday that he could play for England. He could play for like 5 different national teams. But I think with the way the rules are structured, he actually can basically only play for Jamaica.
Okay.
So with that said, Bailey continues to destroy Bundesliga defenses. He scored the opening goal in Leverkusen's 2-1 away win at Hamburg. He stole the ball off an unsuspecting Douglas Santos inside the penalty area, and Santos was so discouraged that he literally took a knee and watched helplessly as Bailey dribbled around the keeper to score. Leon continued to victimize the rest of the Hamburg defense and later created panic in the box with another dribble that led to Bayer's second goal, courtesy of fellow TSS scoutee Kai Havertz.
Bayer Leverkusen is the hotspot for scouting network non-American players. I would love an American to go to Bayer Leverkusen.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
We had that one. Now he's in Mexico.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah. Nick, if you don't know who that is, then do some Googling, you'll figure it out.
Sure.
Nick Becker is scouting Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, a Darryl favourite, a 22-year-old Serbian midfielder for Lazio. Nick says he watched SMS, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, I think that's a good name for him. He watched SMS for the first time on Monday, and SMS went the full 90 in Lazio's 2-0 win over Hellas Verona. Played as the most advanced of a central midfield 3 in a 3-5-2. No goals or assists to speak of, but he almost had each on the same play. Around the 60th minute, he played in Lulic, who fired into the keeper, robbing Sergej of an assist. The ball popped up into the air where Sergej seemed to have an opportunity to head home into an empty net, but he unselfishly allowed Ciro Immobile to complete his brace instead.
I have not seen the footage of this. I would like to watch it to see if it's an intentional leave.
Have you seen footage of Sergej Milinkovic-Savic?
I have. You showed me. You were very excited about him.
I think he's really... He was in the scouting network for 3 years, but we didn't get reports, so I'm really happy that he's reassigned.
I remember you showing me footage of him because I remember the conversation when, are Wolves looking at him? And you're like, no. And I was like, is he English? And you're like, no. And I was very confused after that. I did not get it.
If you haven't seen him, think Serbian Pogba.
Oh, boy.
Not wrong, right? Tall, skillful, powerful.
I'd watch that.
Serbian Pogba.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Marcus Goodrich scouting Shiloh Tracy, the 19-year-old English right winger for Tottenham. Marcus has thrown his hat into the Haiku Club.
Oh, it's been a while, right?
2 goals in 2 games. Tracy's in proper form. Relegation zone. I'm assuming that relates to Tottenham's Premier League 2 side.
That is a great haiku. John Youngblood is scouting Tashan Oakley-Booth, the 18-year-old English midfielder for Tottenham. John says that Tashan Oakley-Booth turned 18 on Valentine's Day and most recently played 83 minutes in Tottenham's U19 victory penalties over Monaco's U19s in the last 16 of the UEFA Youth League. Tashan has been bouncing around between Spurs U18s, 19s and 23s, so John can't be too certain where he will pop up next.
That's his strength, Tashawn's strength. He pops up wherever.
In any age group, yeah. That's good that he's playing over age as well, 18, 19, 23, if he's only 18. Thank you to everybody who sent in scouting reports today. We are getting so many scouting reports, it's getting too long to read all the names at the end of the... you'll know I'm feeling particularly brave if I ever manage to do that again.
Thank you to John, Marcus, Nick, Tom, Brooks, Dan, Whitney, Zachary, Alex, Carolyn, Russell, and Mason.
Backwards as well. You went reverse chronological.
I do what I do.
That's a skill.
Next time I'm just going all over the place.
Right?
I'm going to alphabetize real fast.
You're going to be just like Tashan Oakley Booth.
No.
You never know where he'll pop up.
Yes.
Thank you to everybody who sent scout reports.
You meant good at soccer.
If you better be good tonight. If you want your scout, if you've joined the Scout Network already, please let me know if you want your scout. I'm on a good run of getting back to people within like 36 hours or so. DARYL, Daryl at TotalSoccerShow.com. Let me know. I will get your scout to you. Taylor, what are you doing tomorrow?
What am I doing tomorrow? I am coaching and I'm answering listener questions.
Yes, you are. You're going to be in here answering listener questions. If you've got a question for us, send it. Go to the URL totalsoccershow.com/questions. We may be able to answer it. No guarantees because there are lots of questions.
Maybe.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me this evening.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.